Hi, I'm David Aliff, and this Affable Life. Today, I'm talking to Adam Bude. Adam is an affable person. He's a guy who's doing some great things in his community, but he's also a man who went through a very dark period in his life that when he seriously considered suicide. And through that, and through surviving it, and with his lovely wife and his beautiful kids, this year, when COVID started, he started a men's group on Facebook. You're going to hear about that on here. Men don't always talk very freely about their mental health, their depression, the struggles that they have, and support groups with other guys that they can talk to is really, really important. So I hope you enjoy this interview today with Adam. I just want to add to you that if anybody is going through a dark period and needs some support, please remember Lifeline. Lifeline's help number is 131114. You can call them 24 hours a day, and there's always someone at the other end of the line who can talk to you. There's also other wonderful groups like Beyond Blue, the Black Dog Institute, and the Suicide Callback Service, which also provides help. Actually call them on 1300 659 467. So that's the Suicide Callback Service, 1300 659 467, or it is Lifeline Australia 131114. I'll put the information in the notes below.
I'm good, David. How are you?
Great. It's so good to be talking to you after so many years. You know, we worked together, what was it, 100 or 150 years ago?
Yeah, it was back when you were a boy, so it was a while.
What were you?
I don't know. I was just a thought.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, now Adam is kind again to talk with me about some pretty heavy issues. Guys don't generally talk easily about their stuff and their mental health and so on. And that's one of the reasons why we have such a high suicide rate in this country. But Adam, some time ago, aside from a number of other things that he's done, has started a men's group on Facebook. And how many followers have you got there? How many members have you got on that group, Adam?
It's about 350 now.
That's a great achievement, I think. I know you were saying earlier that you were probably hoping it would go into the thousands, but I reckon the 350 is a great achievement.
Thank you.
Especially thinking of the impact you're having on the lives of those guys, and I see the posts that you put, boosting them up and so on. Adam, to start with, just to put, hopefully, put us both in a good frame of mind, I'm going to put up a YouTube clip of one of the funniest gags that I've seen. It's my favourite, and I'm going to ask you the question: have you ever felt like this? So here it comes. Okay, Adam, have you ever felt like that?
Well, my Well, my question is, what am I feeling? Am I feeling the shock of having a head come up through the bowl,
Well, well,
or
the question could be: have you ever felt like the guy in the bowl who's just about to have somebody,
okay?
or the shock of coming into that situation?
Yeah, I haven't had the shock of that situation, but I've certainly been at the effect of feeling like I was going to be dumped on.
Yeah, look, life can be like that, can't it? So
Can.
one of the things that I noticed, Adam, and honestly, we've been friends for a long time, and we haven't spoken like this for a long time. We haven't seen each other, but I read something on one of the posts in your group. There was a guy sharing some pretty a tough journey that he was going through, and you replied something to the effect that, um, I really understand. My wife lost her father to suicide, and she almost lost her husband, and that really prompted my thinking. So, do you feel comfortable to talk a little bit about that, Adam?
Yeah,
That really tough part of your journey.
yeah, absolutely. Very open to share that. Is there? Where would you like me to begin?
What brought you to that point of being so low that you would even consider? Because I remember you as a very positive guy who was, inspiring other people, encouraging other people, and
Mm,
so on. But there's always another side to every story, isn't there?
there is, yep. So that was, and that's part of the reason why I set up the men's group too, David. So back in 2007, I think it was, just before the global financial crisis, I had quit a job that I really couldn't stand. I think that might even have been the place that we were working together at. And yes, I was, you know, on a path at that particular point. But what I wasn't prepared for was the fact that with all of my uh, supposed skills and experience, that I would find myself out of work for 6 months.
Yeah,
And I just could not find a job, and everything that I was doing was unrecognizable
yeah,
in, let's call it, traditional world.
mm,
So um, at that same time, we found out that we were having twins. So that was a complete shock to my system. We certainly weren't expecting that. And all I could think about at that particular point was the financial burden that that was going to carry, because we had no money.
yeah,
And I was already on a transition of darkness, because when a man loses his identity, then many things will start to escalate from that point. So the longer I was out of work, the more I was drinking, the more I felt isolated, alienated, unwanted, unworthy. Like, just my whole self-esteem went out the window.
yeah,
Everything was just spiraling in a bad way. So
yeah,
I got to a point where we had some serious talks with doctors, and I was on the meds and whatever, and to mellow myself out. But that was the start of it all.
yeah,
Then I was lucky enough to get a job with a corporate hospitality company, and that was a Sydney-based firm that were wanting to set up a Melbourne office. Did a lot of work for national sporting bodies like the Cricket Victoria and Tennis Australia and Australian Rugby Union and so forth. So that was exciting. That was my highest paid salary to
yeah,
begin with as well. So I've gone from being right at the bottom to finally we're getting somewhere. And that was to open up a whole state office and bring on sales people and be
yeah,
the state manager of that. So, however, that happened right at the beginning of the global financial crisis. So within a very short period of time, the GFC hit, and corporate hospitality was a non-discretional spend. So any non-discretional spending, blanket
yeah,
stop. So I went from 100K base to all the way down to next to nothing. It just kept dwindling over time. Throughout that time, we had the twins, Josh and Bree, and they were really sick babies. They were prem. Health issues. We nearly lost Josh. He was hooked up to incubators and life support and all that sort of stuff the first couple of weeks. We nearly lost Bree. She stopped breathing, and Josh saved her life one night.
Wow.
They're allergic to everything, breast milk, like you name it. They just couldn't eat, and really sick babies. And I just didn't cope. So I had the financial pressure, but I also had sleep deprivation as well. So I'd come home, I'd spend a whole day trying to work, and then come home and I'm up all night, broken sleep, feeding babies, crying babies. It was just yuck. So I'll never forget it. Every morning I'd front up to go to work the next day. I'd go to the train station, and my mind was, do I jump in front of this train, or do I get on the train and go to work? And that was a really, really low point for me. And interestingly, we just had it again here in Queensland this week, where I went to the football with my boy yesterday, but the whole train systems were down because someone took their life. And it's one a week that jumps in front of a train. So it's not good. But so it was a really dark time. I didn't feel like I had the support that I needed emotionally, physically, spiritually, and definitely financially. And just didn't know what to do or where to go. And it just got to a point where I found myself checking in with myself, and that was, do I continue with life, or do I not? And at that stage, Amanda was really concerned because, as you mentioned, her father unfortunately did successfully commit suicide. And the thought of her losing her dad and her husband to that was not great. So but it's funny, David, I'll never forget it. My older daughter, Amelia, there was just one time where, when I was at my lowest, I just looked at her and there was just this look in her eyes, and I don't know what it was, but the eyes are the gateway to your soul, and there was a deep message that came through her. She wouldn't have even been 2, less than 2. So we had her, she was 18 months, and then we had the twins. So it's pretty full on. But that gave me a glimmer of hope to start life again. And that's when we decided to pack up and leave Melbourne. And then within 4 weeks, we were living on the Gold Coast, and we started from scratch.
Wow. And you tell me I'm the first person that you met on the Gold Coast. Said you only just moved there when I saw you.
Yeah, I don't even think I think we'd only just started unpacking. So you were here with your job, and that was within the first week that we got here.
Wow, it's amazing. And I haven't seen you since then.
We haven't spoken since then. That was 9 years ago. You've been slack.
Very slack indeed. That's a powerful story, Adam. How did you then start to pull yourself out of that?
See, that's the big question. I think the start of it is to acknowledge that you're not in a good space.
Yeah.
And that's where most men fail to begin with, because they're too proud, they're egotistical, they're fearful of being judged, they're afraid of their emotions, and all this stuff. So just accepting that you're at that point is the first step. Yeah.
Did you find that hard yourself to accept that position?
I don't know. I mean, a little bit. To some degree, I'd already started my path on personal development prior to that point anyway. So when you and I first met, I was already doing stuff.
Yeah.
I think if I hadn't already begun my journey in the self-help space, then yes, definitely would have been a lot harder.
Yeah.
But I'm also, as much as I can be, what was the word you described me in that little message? Egotistical, was it? Or
no, I didn't say that. I think I said you were very affirming. You were very encouraging of others.
No, yes, in the private message that you sent me.
Okay, yeah.
I can't remember whatever the word was, but I'm also quite an emotional guy. So deep down,
empathic is what I said.
deep down, my, I think my emotions is what draws me to the right people, because
Yep.
I'll come across, however I come across to people, arrogant at times, or overconfident, or egotistical, or whatever. But it's the emotional side of me that is really the real me,
Yeah.
and I'm not afraid to show people that either. So I get burnt quite heavily, which is why I said yes. I've certainly felt people dump on me,
Yeah.
and take advantage of me along the way. But yes, if it wasn't for me knowing that I do have that side to me, then yeah, it would have been really tough. And I'm thankful that I do, because I think we all do. And I just think men, it's been indoctrinated into us to toughen up. You know, don't be a girl. Don't be a sook.
Yep.
What's wrong with you? Man up. You know,
Yep.
beat your chest. All that bullshit. That's just not what a man is. You know, in my mind anyway.
No, look, I agree with you completely, and and I'm so glad that you were able to pull yourself through it. And obviously, you know, I've loved over the years that we haven't spoken. I've seen on Facebook, you know, so many times you say such sweet things about your wife Amanda and your love for your kids. You never hold back in saying very, you know, affirming, lovely, sweet things. My I think my generation is possibly the generation that started to change in that area, but we didn't go that far enough. The previous generation, my own parents, I never heard my father ever express anything like that, and I'm one of the generation who never heard his father say that he loved me and so on, or was proud of me and so on. And I'm sure that your approach to your children is very different to perhaps the way you were raised.
Yep, absolutely. You know, I look at my parents and I think that, you know, they did the best that they could with the resources they had. You know, I was a boy that spent his whole life craving his dad's attention, craving his dad's approval, and craving that love from his dad. You know, my father only ever took me to one football match. You know, and I'll never forget it. We went to see Carlton Essendon at Windy Hill.
Yep.
Dad was drunk and he fell asleep standing up. So I'm like, dude. So I've been able to give my kids so much more than what I got, and that was a big thing for me. You know, we moved up here. We have no support. We had no family. We had no friends.
No.
Our lives have been built around giving our kids what we didn't have, because that's what we wanted to do. What they do with that's their choice. So, but yeah, they've got a completely different upbringing to what we did. That's for sure.
Do you have a supportive community around you
now? Yes, to a certain point. It's as we've transitioned through our journey, we've come in and out of contact with many people that serve that purpose at that particular time.
Sure.
We've got some close people that we open up to regularly, and we make ourselves available to open up to anyone regularly. But we've been here for 10 years out of a 47-year life. So it's, and I've been at home working.
Yeah.
I haven't really got outside of social networks to really build or foster that too deeply.
I note it's a curious thing when you ask guys the question, and I've got friends that I've had from school who will say to me, you know, you ask the question, do you have a really close friend with whom you could share anything at all and they'd still be your friend? Most of them find that a very difficult question to ask. Do you feel you've got that, Adam?
I know that I can pick up the phone and talk to people.
Yeah.
And I know that people would be receptive to that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think, David, that's only because I'm prepared to do that.
You're prepared to do it for others, yes, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm also prepared to do it for myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'd have no problems when I recently lost a business, which ironically was in a personal development industry, and I was in that for 7 years, and I lost that through fascinating. It was fascinating, but what really came out of it was one particular guy that just came from left field, and we were only just starting to create a friendship. So it wasn't even deep, but he was one person that was there for me 24/7. And it was the people that I thought I could expect support from that were the ones that weren't there.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of two that were quite supportive. So yeah, I'm lucky. I've got people that I know I can pick the phone up to and openly have an honest and raw conversation with, and not be offended by any feedback that comes.
Okay. In your group, the Man's Clan, with 350 odd people on there, men. What sort of thing do you say to people when they? And I know the sort of thing I've seen, but I'm just going to ask you, what sort of thing do you say if somebody says that, life has no meaning and they just can't cope and they're considering taking a way out?
So it's an interesting question because I'm not qualified.
Not to give professional advice, but as a friend.
Give professional advice,
Yeah.
and then when you're giving personal advice, you just don't know where their mindset's at as to how they're going to perceive the information. I'm a big believer, categorically, that the teacher appears when the student's ready.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big believer that you can't, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink.
Yeah.
So when you see someone from an outsider's point of view, it's very easy to see what path they're going down.
Yeah.
And you can. What I've done in the past is reach out to them and just ask how they're going, and open the door, really, for communication, and say the door's open, come in.
Yep.
But they've got to want to come in themselves. So it's tough. Otherwise, you're just giving advice, and it's not heard.
You do. I notice that you do, as we've already talked about. You do share your own story, which is also very, very helpful when somebody finds somebody else's. There's another person they can identify with who's been down the same path.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, mate. One of the reasons for the group is that I knew that come this whole pandemic that there's going to be a lot of men that lose their jobs, that lose their way, that lose their identity, and that was why, as soon as it happened, I formed that group, so that there's a group of guys, and I called it a clan because in a clan, the difference between a tribe and a tribe is the word that everybody, go and find your tribe. To me, a tribe has a chief, and then everyone else is the Indian.
Yeah.
Whereas a clan is a collective group of people that are in it together. So through story, what I really wanted to create is people coming forward and sharing their stories and their journeys, because it's through those stories and through the journeys and whatnot from other people that someone else can then go back and reflect upon themselves, and then hopefully take some appropriate action steps towards, the better side. And then on top of that, just constantly doing stuff. Like I'll do stupid things just to raise people's vibration. Just to take the heat off the situation and make some light out of the situation. Yep. Give people suggestions on why it's so good to be alive as well. Like I just put up a post of a 90-year-old guy that's dancing with his twin 5-year-old grandchildren.
I saw it.
And I love it too. I think, he's got real reason to live. It's not about money. It's not about ego. It's not about status. It's not about. It's about just having the opportunity to dance with your grandkids.
Yeah.
Freely.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're going to get that opportunity, Adam.
Well, one day we'll see how that plays out.
Now, as we draw this to a close, and there's lots more we could talk about, but there's two things I wanted to ask you about, and I think you may be kind of delighted to talk about them both. There is two books that I understand that are emanating from your household. Would you
There is.
like to tell us about those two books?
Yeah. So the first book is from my daughter, Amelia. So she started writing a book when she was in grade 5. It was actually a passion project from school.
Mm.
And it's a tween fiction. She's been heavily influenced by her dad, who's a superhero and Star Wars nut. But she's also gone down, and massive reader. Like, we don't have technology in the house. They're not onto the iPads or anything like
Wow.
that. They got computers for school, but that's as
Yep.
far as it goes. And they read, avid readers. So she's read all the Harry Potters, I don't know how many times, and she's read so many of these mystical mythology, magical type stuff, and she's obviously quite creative. So she started writing a book in grade 5, and she finished it in grade 6. Now she's in year 7 now, and it's 42,000 words. and I,
What?
and I don't think
What?
I've ever read anything that's 42,000 words. But after losing my first business, after losing the second one, essentially just to the pandemic, we've set up a GoFundMe for her, because if we can help her at the age of 12, 13 realize the manifestation of her passions, then what a building block she's got to work from the rest of her life. So
Oh, yeah.
Go fund her, guys. Get it out there. Help us get that book out. But so she's doing that, and that's going to be the first of a 3-part series. So
well, I'll put the link to that GoFundMe page in down there. And so once people have subscribed to my channel, then they can read the other part and go to the GoFundMe.
yeah, that'd be great.
Now
Much
tell me about your book, because I'm interested in that one as well.
So my book is at the editors now. Part of the pandemic gave me the opportunity to sit back and reflect, and in the back of my mind, there's always been a book. And I've been, my whole career's been sales training, sales leadership, sales management, direct sales, commission-based sales. That's what I've done for 2 decades. But I've also been an entrepreneur, and I've also run a business that was around anti-selling, which was really quite refreshing. So that really gave me the space to put together a book which is all about authentic selling. And I believe that the world's changing, and
Yeah.
for the better. I think the old way of doing things is being found out. Forcing people to buy products and services just so that the company can make a buck is what it's all about. Sell, 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 sell. And I personally hate being sold to.
Me too.
In fact, I can't be sold to. So, so the book is all about, sales through leadership, sales through integrity, sales through authenticity, being a genuine person, and really taking the whole sell away from sell, sell, sell to getting people to be back to being of service. If Zig Ziglar says, if you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll always get what you want in life. And I'm a big believer of energetical exchange. So like I'm talking about with the men's group, I'll give and I'll give and I'll give. And if I can impact one life from me giving, then I get a huge amount back, energetically from that. From sales, if we get back to being of genuine service and wanting to actually be a problem solver, and that's what the salesperson is. You got someone that wants something, you got someone that needs something, and you're a matchmaker, like you are as a celebrant. You're a matchmaker. So sales is just an extension of that, and that's what the book's all about: getting back to being of service and having your intentions right. It's not about the sell. It's not about profit. It's not about how much can we get from this person. It's about how much can we contribute back, and then a shitload of money will be made as a byproduct of that, just naturally, because people want to buy from you instead of you having to sell to them.
That's excellent.
Yes.
Adam, it's been really good talking, and I think I really wish Amelia well with her book, and hope that you can get it to the stage of being able to publish it. It sounds really exciting. I really like the sound of your book as well, and I think you and I both learned a fair bit over the years about what is inauthentic about some areas of sales. And so a book about authentic sales from the authentic, affable Adam Bude is wonderful. And I look forward to reading a copy.
Thanks, Dave.
So thanks very much for your time today, Adam. And we'll talk again.
Just before we go, if I could just leave a parting message.
Please do.
So for anyone that's watching this video, thank you, David, for making the time for us to be together. I just wanted to share, if you feel your world unraveling around you, to understand that it is just part of the journey. It's not the end, it's just part of the journey. And as that whole, if we use the onion as an example, you have the core and you got all the stuff that's around the onion. As we find ourselves in unfamiliar territory, we start peeling that onion back until we get to the core. The core is your essence, and that is your being, and that is what you've come onto this planet with. As a human being, we're here to learn, we're here to grow, and we're here to evolve. And everything is happening to you for a reason. And that reason is to learn from. And you don't know what you're supposed to be learning, and you might not know why you're supposed to be learning it, but I can guarantee you what you learn will make the difference to somebody else along the way. So be strong and embrace the challenge, because that's what life is.
Great stuff. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, David.